The Los Angeles Kings with 99 points, good enough to barely squeak into the playoffs last year, which is crazy. They had a really great year and they stepped forward. But is it for real? So first off, Jess, let's go through those odds at sportsinteraction.com/SDPN.
The over-under is 96.5.
Ooh.
96.5
now,
regular season points.
A lot of projections have them taking maybe a bit of a step back. Maybe they overperformed last year. Steve, I'm going to start with you. Where do you stand on that?
I strongly disagree. I think they're going to take a big step forward. Big step forward. Kevin Fiala was a huge addition for them. Quentin Byfield, I think, is going to be huge for them in a season that is hopefully spent entirely in the NHL and injury-free. And, it's a real changing of the guard moment, potentially, in net. Because Jonathan Quick is finally at the end of that forever deal. Cal Peterson is there. I believe his extension is kicking in. But this team was really difficult to get a read on. Because I think we give them credit for the way they ended the season, which was pushing Edmonton to 7 games while missing your best defenseman in Drew Doughty, and then going out and getting Kevin Fiala. Before that, they were only a +3, which I believe was the worst goal differential of any team to make the playoffs in the West. And they had one of the worst home records of any team to make the playoffs. They were 21-16-4. So they essentially had one more win
Then lost
at home and still somehow made the playoffs. I don't think that sort of thing is roster construction, because that obviously means they did well on the road.
Yes.
If they ended up making it. So LA needs to be a harder place to play this year for the Kings to take a step forward.
You mentioned Quentin Byfield, guys. For them to take a step forward this season, I think he's got to be a guy that needs to take a step forward. I get that there's injuries, and I get hasn't played a full season in the NHL yet, but we're talking about a guy who scored at a 20-point pace last year.
I'm going to defend everything you're saying.
You're going to defend it?
Yeah.
Or
I'm going to dispute everything
you're going to dispute.
saying.
I mean, the reality is that's what he performed at. He had 40 games, and he scored 5 goals and had 5 assists.
Yeah, last preseason, he fractured his ankle. He's also 19. The 2 years before that, when he's supposed to be developing into a player who can play full-time as an adult, there was a pandemic where he had to play in the AHL, and they didn't get a season off.
Really, really difficult draft class.
Yeah, we need to give Byfield some time here.
Okay.
The
So
roster,
beyond that, though, he did struggle driving play as well. So sometimes in the underlying numbers, you're going to see things like, maybe it's not just showing up on the point sheet, but it's like, okay, well, like with Cole Caulfield, you have a coaching changes his style, scores a bunch of goals again. Yeah. Quentin Byfield, not that he can't, but he needs to.
That's fair, but what I would do is I would take all of Quentin Byfield's stats from last year. I would print them out, and then you save yourself a trip to the convenience store for toilet paper. I think you can wipe your ass with it, because I think it's a completely different season for a player of his caliber and his age, and just, again, everything that could have gone wrong for him did. And that's what the Kings got to bank on, not just for Quentin Byfield, but the entire roster. Right now, just looking at the old capfriendly.com, the roster could feature as many as 9 guys under 25. I would bank on all of those guys taking a step. And if they do, watch the hell out for the LA Kings.
Okay. All right. Now,
yeah, that's a kid who just turned 20. I think all of those skills, like you're saying, Adam, are important for him to develop. And this is probably the year and the next couple that he's going to develop those skills. It's not surprising that he doesn't have them yet.
Fair enough. Yeah. And again, 19, right?
20.
Okay, 20. 2 of the best two-way centers in the last half decade are LA Kings. That's Phil Deneau and Anze Kopitar. And Anze Kopitar, I believe, he's going to be 34 or is 34. Deneau splitting duties with him seemed to really help last year and allowed him, because you're at 34, you're not the same person you were at 24 physically, allowed him the opportunity to kind of take it a little bit easier and be more effective in smaller doses. What do you think having those two centers in a division where you've got McDavid and Draisaitl, okay? Then you got Lindholm and Kadri. And I don't know, who else you want to bring up? The Canucks centers? You want to bring up Vegas' center? There's Jack Eichel and Chandler Stevenson, maybe less daunting than McDavid. This is a division of high-scoring, high-performing number one centermen. How much does that benefit the LA Kings to have those two guys?
Oh, enormously. It helps them survive in a ridiculously high-octane division. It allows their wingers to go and do more of the mayhem. And also, adding on to the Byfield conversation that we were having, how unbelievably invaluable was it for the Montreal Canadiens to have Philip Deneau while developing Nick Suzuki?
Very.
Really helped turn him into the player that he is right now. A full season of Philip Deneau and Anze Kopitar as well. Sheltering Byfield's development. Oh, yeah.
You like that?
Oh, that's going to be the good stuff for them.
It's funny because they asked Deneau about this, I don't know, like a week or a half ago or something like that. And like his response to the question was, he was like, I didn't start every face-off in the defensive zone. Like Kopitar also helped me out, and it opened Deneau up to score the most amount of goals he's ever scored in his career. He was almost a 30-goal scorer last year.
And his line mate Trevor Moore, another career year.
Oh yeah, unbelievable. What they needed was even more offensive talent, and that's what they went out and did with Kevin Fiala. They had a very clear need, and they went out and got somebody who's going to hopefully fill that need there in their forward group.
I'm looking for the LA Kings to pick up a little more depth. Once you get past a second half of the third line, it sort of thins out a little bit. Like ideally on a really good team, is Trevor Moore playing second line minutes? Probably not.
No, probably not.
Right?
It worked out very well.
It did, but I'm just, and no offense to Mike Stevens, I love you, but it's not. It's maybe not. But a guy like Victor Arvidsson is what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Another guy who if I'm not mistaken, battled long-term injuries last year
and was still extremely effective.
It's like getting two guys. You're getting Arvidsson and Fiala.
Right.
Basically.
And so what does Fiala bring? Because, I mean, obviously, the one thing I'll say about Fiala is, yes, he had a career year last year. So I'm going to come at the negative, as negative as I can. Sure. He was playing with Kirill Kaprizov.
Who was a handful.
Pretty amazing hockey player.
Yeah.
So, there are people who are like, okay, wait, well, he may not put up 86 or 87 points this year. Is he the guy that Paul Fenton thought he was when he went out and got him?
I think so. Even though he was playing with Kaprizov, I think what the Kings can provide to Fiala is great outlet passes. I think the D are going to be looking for him all the time. Doughty, Sean Dursey. I like Mikey Anderson back there, and there's a guy who just got a contract and he's looking for another one. There's so much to like about the LA Kings, and again, I think the centers are going to allow the wingers to cause all the mayhem. Give him the puck. I don't think it's a bad strategy.
Yeah, give him. And like in terms of depth options, like their best depth young player last year was Arthur Kaliev. Like he had an unbelievable season on that third line, and he's only 21 years old, and he's only going to get better as well playing with Byfield. Like that's hopefully his winger for the next 5-10 years of his NHL career.
And maybe the most disrespected player in the NHL. Who represented them at the All-Star game last year? Does anyone remember?
Who represented the
Kings?
I have no idea.
They didn't send. No, I don't know who.
Adrian Kempe.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
There you go.
And deservedly so.
Deservedly so. He's an unreal player. I do remember seeing the group of All-Stars and being like, well, one of these names doesn't fit. But the more I watch Adrian Kempe, the more he absolutely does.
Yeah.
They're going to be... I feel like the Kings have really shaken their reputation of being this slow, grinding team. They're freaking fast.
They are.
They're fast.
And we barely talked about their defense.
Pesky, bad.
Drew Doughty is like an own rental that they're getting back because he was out since March, you know?
Yeah.
It's
and
fucking
just
fantastic.
Built-in anger.
Okay.
Just a chip on his shoulder the size of California.
We have 15 seconds. Where do you place them in the division, gentlemen?
Third.
I got them third as well.
I also have them third. Again, LA Kings, Wills take a step forward, but Edmonton and Calgary are just too good at this point. Maybe a couple more years and they'll be at the top.